All right. Well, good afternoon. Thank you so much for being with us today. We're here to talk about a really important issue here in Kentucky, and it's something that we've heard nationally, the issue of the accessibility of AEDs. We've certainly seen some high profile cases recently, the Damar Hanlon case and situation when he suffered a sudden cardiac arrest on an athletic field. And he had access to a trained group of professionals and an emergency action plan and AEDs, which changed his situation. And certainly he had a more positive outcome than some of the cases that we're hearing about for students across the nation. Sudden cardiac arrest is the third leading cause of death in America, and we're hearing more and more about high school students who are have either a genetic propensity for a cardiac situation or otherwise, and we are hearing that I think it's every 3 days we have a student who suffers a sudden cardiac arrest on an athletic field and is dying on their school property or athletic training fields. So we know that access to and having access to AEDs, automatic external defibrillators, is critical. It's critical in a very time-sensitive way. We know that an individual who has fallen with a sudden cardiac arrest really only has a matter of minutes before an AED or CPR should be started to save their lives. What we are proposing is requiring that all schools in Kentucky have access to an AED to any athletic field or any school-sanctioned event. We know that this not only happens on athletic fields, but it also has the potential to happen at any school-sanctioned event. So we want to make sure that AEDs are available to anyone. It also requires that all schools have an emergency action plan, which is followed by a hands-on rehearsal at the beginning of every team season or at least annually. And that all school or all coaching staff and trainers be trained in CPR, that they maintain the CPR certification as appropriate by national best practice standards. And then we're still debating whether or not the need for a trust fund is important to get this language passed. We have worked on this language in previous years, and we don't want to propose an unfunded mandate. So we want to make sure that schools have the ability to get these AEDs and training in schools. So we're still massaging the language, as we like to say here in the Capitol. And I have some folks here with me today, and I want to say this is a strong bipartisan effort. Representative Ruth Ann Palumbo here has introduced some language. We are working on, again, adding and making a few changes to that language. So that's what you'll see in the coming days when this language it's already introduced, but when it's heard in committee, we're working on that. You'll probably see what we call a committee sub, which may change the language a little bit to better fit both of our ideas. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Representative Palumbo, if you want to say a few words, and then we'll hear from our families.
I just want to say that this legislation is needed in Kentucky and will save lives. So that's why it's so important. And I thank Representative Moser for working so hard on this. And I'm so sorry to the families who've suffered great loss.
Right. Thank you, Representative Palumbo. And again, you know, we know that this happens across our nation, and I've had the great privilege and honor of getting to know some of the families who've been greatly touched by this issue, and our heart breaks for their situations, for their loss, but we certainly don't want other families to go through this again. And so I think at this time, I will introduce Logan Batson, who is the brother of Cameron Batson. And if you just want to tell us your story a little bit and why this is important.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and as Kim said, my name is Logan Batson, and I want to thank you for allowing me to tell my family's story, and it just means a lot for us to be here. Unfortunately, there's an important member of our family that couldn't be here today. In 2010, my older brother, Cameron Batson, passed away on a high school soccer field in northern Kentucky. He was an 18-year-old athlete in great shape. He collapsed from a sudden cardiac arrest, and there was not an AED on the field. By the time the ambulance arrived, it was too late. They did everything they could, but after his passing, we found out that the cause of death was a rare heart condition. And we also found out that if there was an AED on the field, it could be him telling his story today. We can't change the past, but we have been and will continue to do everything that we can to help prevent tragedies like this happening to other families. In the past decade, our family has donated dozens of AEDs, and they've gone to many public places such as schools. I believe that the bill that we're proposing today would be our greatest achievement that we can do for the state of Kentucky and for our students. Requiring AEDs in schools and near their athletic venues will bring peace of mind to the community and ultimately save students' lives. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Logan. And next we will hear from Mr. Matt Mangine.
Good afternoon. First, I would like to thank Representative Kim Moser for sponsoring this important legislation. I'm here today to speak to you about an urgent need for legislative action involving the use of automated external defibrillators. See, it is hard to say. It is. Or AEDs for short. This is not something I would have ever imagined doing. Matthew is now leading and guiding me to become an advocate for youth athletes everywhere. Our son's story, Matthew Mangine Jr., collapsed during soccer practice on June 16, 2020, at the age of 16. An AED was not used or brought to the scene until EMTs arrived roughly 12 minutes later. For an AED to be most effective, it needs to be applied in the first 3 minutes. The high school's emergency action plan stated several AEDs were on site. The loss of a child is unthinkable, surreal, and something no parent should face. Matthew embodied what life is meant to be. Kind and selfless individual. Kim and I were not even aware of all the greatness that he had in him. After his passing, friends passed on a news story that contained a quote from one of his classmates who had attempted suicide. When she came back to school, he took it upon himself to walk her to class and make sure that she knew he was thinking about her. You have no idea the amount of pride Kim and I felt hearing stories like these about our son. We try as parents to teach our children to be extensions of ourselves outside the home. I wish I could aspire to be 1/10 of the person that my son was. As a final selfless act, Matthew had signed up as an organ and tissue donor when he received his learner's permit in October of 2019. Kim nor I had any idea until the night of his passing of his decision. Why would we? Those are not conversations that we expect to have with our children. Matthew was not only kind, but he was also very passionate. He saw a problem and dove headfirst into it. His passion for soccer didn't start even until his 7th grade year of grade school. And it's with that passion that Kim and I have jumped into helping with the foundation and other things to help get AEDs and education out there. If you were part of this select group of families that have endured this tragic loss, you would understand why we are so passionate about these issues. Through our tragedy, we have had the honor of connecting with the Batson and Ifacho families. As far as I'm aware, Cameron, Starr, and Matthew are the last 3 athletes in Kentucky taken away from us too soon from SCA. With immediate action, young athletes can be better protected and not added to that list. Our family members are part of an exclusive club that no parent ever wants to be a part of. AED access and trainings are key to success. Currently, one of our greatest success stories with our foundation is at Taylor High School in Cleves, Ohio. To date, we have trained over 700 athletes, coaches, and teachers at this school, and it continues to grow every day. Every sport at Taylor requires hands-on refresher training for coaches who are already CPR and AED certified before the season starts. The athletic director, Larry Hergis, wanted to take it one step further, so we also train every athlete the first week of practice. The cost of this is $0. Their athletic trainers, Lauren and Betsy, have made it their passion to be ready for any catastrophic event. We hope that all schools in Kentucky implement education programs that mimic programs similar to this. As we know, sudden cardiac arrest can strike anyone at any time, regardless of age or physical fitness. Every year, as we've already heard, thousands of young people suffer from cardiac arrests, and many of them die as a result. SCA is the leading cause of death among youth athletes. A student athlete dies every 3.5 days from an SCA in the United States. However, with availability of AEDs, the chances of survival increase dramatically. It's not a matter of if it's going to happen, it's a matter of when. We've made great strides in recent years in increasing the availability of AEDs in public spaces, but there is still much work to be done. Specifically, I am here to advocate for changes in the bylaws governing AED use in schools. Currently, some schools do not have AEDs on site, and those that do may not have them readily accessible or adequately maintained. This puts students, teachers, and staff at unnecessary risk. We need to make it mandatory for all schools to have AEDs on site and easily accessible. Matthew's favorite color was purple. The foundation Kim and I started in his honor uses purple in everything that we do. This issue is not blue or red, this issue is purple. Thank you for your attention to this important matter. Thank you.
All right. Well, I just want to thank everyone for being here today. You've heard these really compelling stories, and it's a heartbreak that no family should have to endure. It's a preventable situation, and we want to ensure the safety and protection of our children in schools at all levels, and this is just another way to make sure that we do that. So at this time, I think we are available for any questions. Yes?
Jim, for you or Ruth Ann, either one of you, have you any idea, you talk about unfunded mandates, how much it would cost to have one of these devices in every school's facility across Kentucky?
Well, so we don't have a fiscal impact across the state unless you have that information, but it's roughly $800 per automatic external defibrillator.
And it used to be 3,000, so it's come down quite a bit.
Right.
And affordable for each school.
It is.
Are there any public service entities that are purchasing them and then handing them out to schools and what have you that you're aware of?
Yeah, well, so the individuals who are here with us today are both of their foundations, Cameron's Cause and the Matthew Mangine One Shot Foundation, raise money to be able to donate these AEDs. And so the language that we're negotiating right now about the trust fund could collect monies from private donations, grants, or if the state decides to appropriate. We're not asking for that right now, but if they should want to contribute, then this trust fund would be available. But it wouldn't preclude the ability of the foundations to collect their own funds and fund these AEDs. So it wouldn't, obviously if a school has the wherewithal and they have the funding, they wouldn't be asking for funds out of the trust fund.
And certainly individuals can give the money to their favorite schools.
That's true.
for high schools only, or are you wanting this for every?
We say, I
Middle
think in
and
the
high.
language, it's middle and high school. Yeah, but this is really also a strong education and awareness campaign. And so if there are elementary schools who want to take it a step further and have AEDs available at their schools, they can certainly do that.
The teacher might benefit from this as well. I mean, it's not just.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So it's a safety device that we see in airports, we see it in public places, so why not make sure that we have these in schools? Anyone else?
What kind of impact has DeMar Hamlin really had on bringing this kind, I mean, you brought two AED bills forward previously, so is there an awareness impact, or what do you think is the change that might be a difference maker this time?
Well, I think you're right. I mean, this has really gotten national attention, and I think, it's an issue that I knew was important, but I'm a medical professional, and so I've worked in this space, and I think until something tragic, unfortunately, happens, sometimes these important issues don't rise to the level that they should, and we're very happy that DeMar Hamlin's case turned out the way it does. I think it just illustrates the importance of having an AED and an emergency action plan in place and followed. I mean, it worked. And so this is what we want for all schools.
Is there a certain amount of staff that needs to be trained on it per school?
In the language, we have a minimum of 3 individuals outside of the coaching staff. So we expect that the coaching staff and trainers would all be trained in CPR. They would maintain a CPR certification and trained on the AED, and then 3 other individuals in the school. I think it's a good idea for anyone to get this training, and actually on the outside of the AEDs themselves are instructions. But again, I think the fact that we need to do some sort of simulation and practice with these will just strengthen the comfort, if you will, with using these. And so that's another piece of this.
And Representative Timoney
Yeah, come on up.
was very familiar with the student who died from Dunbar High School. Would you like to say a few words?
Sure.
Yeah.
I think that obviously this is a pretty emotional meeting, and just listening to the testimonies was kind of very, very real. The situation that the student succumbed to, it was about procedure. And I think that that's one of the things that's the best part about this bill, is that the procedure piece is definitely in there, and it gives definitely the frameworks that we're going to be saving a lot of kids with this. A lot of unnecessary deaths are occurring, and this is going to save that. And anything we can do for that will definitely be a huge plus. So that's why I'm glad to support this, and I'm so honored just to be able to be a part of this for the families. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I hope this has answered some of your questions. Certainly, you know where to find us if you have other questions, and we'll be available. Thank you.
Thanks.